That's from Bunda and groups from Chewu, from Kampata, because I wanted them to see what I have been teaching them. I have always told them we are not going to give them fish to eat or osima to eat, but we will give them the fishing rod. And what is happening here is giving the fishing rod to the women, and they are able to get something and help their families.
Chairperson of the cooperative, Zaina Kapachika, said apart from producing wine, they also want to start manufacturing products such as whips, diapers, sanitary pads, and other items by fully utilizing bananas without wasting anything. By promoting local agro-processing industries in rural areas, Malawi seeks to make such establishments as key pillars of national economic growth, a vision the country aspires to realize by 2063. Yamikani Simutowe, MBC Kasungu.
Malawi is counting on the delegation that represented the country at the Conference of Parties COP30 in Brazil to provide tangible solutions to reducing Malawi's climate-induced disasters. Chief Secretary Justin Saidi said this in Lilongwe at a COP30 dissemination workshop. Isaac Jali with the full story.
Speaking at the COP30 dissemination workshop in Lilongwe, Chief Secretary Dr. Justin Saidi emphasized the need for institutions and individuals representing Malawi at international climate conferences to be proactive and result-oriented. Dr. Saidi said Malawi continues to experience devastating effects of climate change, including floods and droughts, and stressed that resolutions made at such global meetings must translate into concrete interventions on the ground. The Chief Secretary further observed that Malawi must strategically position itself to benefit from new climate financing mechanisms, noting that adequate financing is critical for the successful implementation of climate adaptation and mitigation programs. He added that Malawi should leverage COP30 outcomes not only to respond to climate shocks, but also to tap into emerging opportunities in renewable energy, green job creation, sustainable land management, and climate-resilient infrastructure development.
You recall last year we sent a team of Malawians to participate in the Conference of Parties 30, which is COP30. It's an issue to do with the climate change, resilience, and whatever. So it is important that whatever we got there, we have to implement here. There are some of programs that we got even funding for, and we expect our people to do as agreed. And this workshop is merely looking at disseminating whatever we got, because not all people were there, and how they can support the government in the implementation of issues of climate change in Malawi. So, as a country, we need to work more on some bankable projects that next time we go to COP should be maybe COP31, we should be able to even come back smiling. It is important because any country cannot survive without looking at issues of weather degradation. We need to implement all those projects so that we are able, as Malawi, to be safe from devastation.
Meanwhile, environmental activist Matthews Malata echoed the Chief Secretary's sentiments, saying Malawi urgently needs increased investment in clean energy, soil management, and other climate-smart interventions if the country is to withstand climate-related shocks.
As a country, definitely we need to continue to mobilize resources, and the little resources that we are receiving, we must also put those resources to good use. We need to come up with very, very clear investment plans, climate change investment plans, and I'm happy that last year the government did successfully pitch, I think, over 26 projects, different sectors, waste management, energy, agriculture, and others. And these are the core areas that we need to keep on focusing on as a country. We need to see how best we can accelerate access to sustainable energy to our people, both for cooking, for lighting, and other things.
The Conference of Parties 30, which was held in Belém, Brazil, among other resolutions, agreed to scale up financing for developing countries to about $300 billion by 2030, aimed at strengthening their capacity to respond to the impacts of climate change. Isaac Jali, MPC, Lilongwe.
In a related development, influx of unlicensed charcoal production in most parts of Mangochi is contributing to continued deforestation of some forest reserves. Following the development, stakeholders in environmental conservation are calling for collaboration and stronger law enforcement in curbing environmental crimes in the district. Sotin Dazi and Owen Mavola have filed this report.
For many years, the demand for charcoal has led to unsustainable depletion of wood, leading to habitat destruction and loss of biodiversity in most parts of the country. Such a challenge has not spared the Lakeshore district of Mangochi, where charcoal traders, mostly unlicensed, continue to go about their business, defying environmental regulations and compliance obligations. Some of the traders who transport bags of charcoal from as far as Chilipa and Katema seem to be unbothered with this path.
While when we meet with forest in the bush or when we are en route to markets, we usually run away for fear of being arrested.
Some of the charcoal traders claim they often tussle with law enforcers and sometimes bribe their way to bypass regulations.
On part of police, we know that they were given power by forest sector to deal with us. But when we meet with law enforcers without negotiating properly with money, they tend to destroy our bicycles and sometimes confiscate the bags of charcoal we have carried, which is a challenge to us.
Reacting to the reports, stakeholders in the environmental sector believe collaboration and strict enforcement of existing laws can go a long way in curbing environmental crimes. For instance, Kumalawi Restore Africa project manager Chimwemwe Gremu is of the views that different stakeholders should be encouraged to use multi-sectoral approach to enhance enforcement mechanisms towards supporting the forestry sector.
Communities themselves have to be in the forefront in terms of formulation of the bylaws. So our role is to do the facilitation part and to engage different stakeholders that are critical in the bylaws formulation. So we mobilize, we make a kind of an interface, a kind of meeting such that each key stakeholders participate in the formulation of the bylaws.
But Executive Director for Youth Initiatives for Sustainable Development in Mangochi, George Kaula, is of the view that providing alternative source of income to communities, including the youth, can help reduce deforestation in the district.
There's so much unemployment rate in Malawi. So one way where young people see that there's room that they can survive is through charcoal burning. So that's where they start selling charcoal, and then they will start cutting down trees so that they can obtain charcoal, so that they can sell and then they get something and survive.
In a separate interview with MBC, Assistant Forestry Officer for Mangochi, Peter Mdodo, said the district is facing a challenge of limited resources to help officers conduct routine patrols.
We conduct routine and camping forest patrols to confiscate illegal forest produce. So far, as you are seeing from my bag, we confiscated almost 44 bags of charcoal, and the 4 culprits were arrested, and they were given a jail term of 48 months last year around December. The challenges we are currently facing, one is financial constraints, capacity gaps.
According to a report by Global Forest Watch, in 2024, Mangochi district lost 1.7 kilohectares of natural forest, equivalent to 260 kilotons of carbon emissions.
Some 125 youths will be leaving the country for Dubai to work as general helpers. Minister of Labour George Gona urged them to work with an aim of investing in Malawi for improved socio-economic development. The minister made the remarks during a farewell ceremony for the youths. Paul Mloga has filed this report.
Chigona said it is important for the youths that have found opportunities to work in the diaspora to invest back home, saying doing so can improve both economic and infrastructure development of the country. Chigona then urged the group to observe laws of their country of work to help uphold Malawi's global image.
My take is if they invest in this country, we will develop this country. You know, they can invest here and employ other people as well. That's lead to the development of this country. So I eagerly encourage them to keep on investing in Malawi when they go to Dubai. They have to remember that they are carrying Malawi flag. We are a very good nation, a God-fearing nation. So we encourage them to be at their best in terms of the behavior. You know, in every country, you have to oblige by their laws. If you break their laws, you get punished. And Dubai is a very strict nation.
Managing Director for Job Center, Trevor Kandoje, said he is happy that youths are finding meaning to their existence through such opportunities. He has since applauded government for what he calls symbiotic relationship shared.
As the private recruiters, we report to the Ministry of Labour. We get all the clearances from them. We get all the authority from them. So basically what we are doing is we are complementing what the government should have done. So we've had a cordial relationship with the ministry because all our documentation for the boys is done through the ministry.
The youths are going to United Arab Emirates to work as general helpers in areas including construction, shopping malls and airports. Paul Mlowoka, MBC News, Lilongwe.
You're watching MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chingambe. A reminder of the top stories. Vice President Dr. Jane Ansah describes cooperatives as a tool for transforming the local economy. The Malawi Electoral Commission staff advised to remain apolitical when executing their duties. And the Ministry of Education will soon include Chinese, Kiswahili, Portuguese, and Arabic languages in its secondary school curricula. Welcome back. Staff at the electoral body, the Malawi Electoral Commission, have been urged to remain apolitical when executing their duties in order to maintain the institution's integrity. One of MEC commissioners, Caroline Mfone, was speaking in Mzuzu during the official opening of training for EMD operators in preparation for the forthcoming by-election on March 17. Musase Cheo reports.
The Malawi Electoral Commission is preparing to administer by-elections scheduled for 17th March 2026 in some parts of the country. During the electoral processes, MEC conducts registration of voters, where the election management device operators play a crucial role. Speaking during the official opening of the training for the operators, one of the MEC commissioners, Caroline Mfune, asked MEC employees to be apolitical and perform their duties professionally for the public to continue trusting the institution and the entire process.
Any problem that can actually come out from the poor registration can have disputes and also have issues which can discredit the electoral processes. We reminded them to be apolitical because our mandate is to carry elections and they are not supposed to show or maybe do something which people might see that they are biased to one political party or an individual candidate. I also reminded them how to manage in case we have got individuals who are Islamic, especially the ladies who put on hijab. So all in all, what I wanted was to set a conducive environment. They should go there knowingly that they are doing the work for Malawi Electoral Commission.
In the northern region, the by-elections will be held in Ruwinga Ward in Mzuzu, Iyembe Ward in Karonga, and Rumpi Central Constituency in Rumpi. Musase Cheyo, MBC News, Mzuzu.
Police has issued a stern warning to motorbike operators riding without crash helmets that the law enforcers will not hesitate to impound the motorbike and fine the operators. Mangochi Police Station Traffic Officer Julius Piri has told Embassy in an interview that the move aims to reduce fatalities. Francis Banda has compiled this report, being read by Owen Mavula.
Mangochi is one of the districts registering a growing number of motorists and cyclists as a result of its growing economic status in the country. According to Mangochi Town Assembly, by mid-2025, Mangochi Town had over 2,500 registered bicycle taxi operators on top of an unverified number of those who ply their business without registering with the council. As economic status of the cyclists grows, some have upgraded to motorcycling with only basic knowledge of how to ride, a development which is said to be causing avoidable accidents in the district. According to Mangochi Police Station Traffic Officer Superintendent Julius Piri, instead of celebrating the development as a sign of life improvement, the situation is now becoming a matter of safety concern.
We still maintain that what we want is everyone should go and come back safely. No injuries, no deaths, no damages to property. So when you are riding a bike, whether you're riding or you're a passenger, you're not putting on a crash helmet, whatever can happen in terms of accident, it is you falling down and your head will, most of the time, hit the hard surface, which is the road. As a result of that, we have so many fatalities because of this. So our aim is to reduce this number of fatalities. If we could see all people riding bikes putting on crash helmets, we are sure that some of these fatalities can be reduced. We've seen this. We have tangible example. I have in my hand this helmet. This helmet was used by one of colleagues on a motorbike. He was involved in a crash. He fell down. Look at the crash helmet now. It's completely destroyed. But the person is alive. Just because he had put on the crash helmet. Had it been that he didn't put on this crash helmet, now could have been telling a different story. But thanks that he did put on this crash helmet, and indeed this crash helmet saved him, saved his life.
One of the motorbike taxi operators in the district, Mike Mangani, believes the move will help bring sanity among operators.
Government is not offending us. Police have ordered us to put on crash helmets. We are supposed to comply. If we operate without these crash helmets, then it is us who are violating the law.
At a recent press briefing in Lilongwe, Minister of Homeland Security Peter Mukito cautioned traffic police officers to desist from receiving bribes from motorists who break the law and warned that those found will face the long arm of the law.
Police in Kawale have launched a manhunt for a suspect of drug beverage known as Sibweni after he escaped arrest during a raid in Area 23, Lilongwe. Officers seized assorted medical drugs believed to have been illegally sourced from government hospitals. Miriam Kaliza spoke to Kawale Police publicist Mavuto Piri.
Kawale Police Station, we have managed to seize these medical drugs, which were being kept by a certain businessman in Area 23 Majika site. So after receiving a tip-off from well-wishers, we navigated on the ground and we managed to invade the house that the drugs were being kept. I want to, in the first place, recommend residents of Kawale for the tip-off message that we have received here. So this shows that our collaboration with the community helps us also to halt some of the crimes that residents do commit in our various places. So going forward, we want also to extend the same message to those who are with such evil mind to misuse the resources that have been assigned by the government meant for citizens of Malawi, that the Lero will take its place and we will follow them as police.
Ministry of Education will soon start offering new subjects such as Chinese, Kiswahili, Portuguese and Arabic, among others, in the country's secondary schools. This was revealed at the Malawi Institute of Education when Secretary for Education Ken Dala opened the drafting of syllabuses for elective subjects lower secondary for national secondary curriculum. Kumbugani Peri has filed this report.
Apart from the subjects that have been offered in the country's secondary schools, which include English and French, an additional 14 elective subjects will soon be incorporated into the country's secondary syllabus. According to Secretary for Education Ken Dala, the introduction of these 14 electives follows new developments in education frameworks, both regionally and globally. Ndala said the elective subjects will play a critical role in broadening students' academic horizons while nurturing individual talents and interests and equipping students with diverse skills and knowledge.
And so far, we are now at a point where we are developing syllabuses. Phase 1, we developed core subjects, syllabuses, and this time we are developing elective subjects for lower secondary. There's some of the subjects that possibly they haven't been traditional subjects. For example, Chinese, you talk about Kiswahili, showing that the curriculum is now integrating.
Mountain View International Primary School, a sister institution to Central High International School in Blantyre, will continue supporting public primary schools in Malawi by strengthening English language teaching from an early stage. Speaking at the close of the program's pilot phase, coordinating primary school advisor for Blantyre Urban, Hastings Kumbemba, said the integration of teachers from international and government schools is a positive step towards improving learning standards.
The great ideas have now been identified, and before they start implementing, they need to be capacitated. They need to have foundational knowledge.
Joel Phonics will assist the teachers mainly in teaching of English, where learners will start with sounding the words, and then when they are sounding the letters, and it will be very easy for them to read words, and even knowing how to read, it will be very fast for them, unlike what we do currently. The gaps were that most of the teachers, when they are teaching in class, could not manage to sound some words or letters. And if the teacher had problems in sounding a letter, it also gave a problem to learners to master. But now, the way they have been taught, for example, this time around, the teachers have been taught that in English, there are 42 sounds. That if they master the 42 sounds, it will be very easy for a learner to read any word.
The pilot involved teachers from 19 schools, including Maketa, St. Kizero, Limbi, Chijiri, Limbi Girls, and Mountain View International Primary School. Chairperson of Mountain View and Central High International Schools, Irfan Beda, said the program will primarily focus on schools in Blantyre before expanding to other parts of the country.
Jolly Phonics is a tool that is used to train staff on how to read and how to write from the youngest of age. This is what lays the foundation of the children from the age of 3 and onwards. Without that, their learning will be hampered. So this is an ideal tool to ensure that the spoken English and written English is as it should be. This project is a very comprehensive project. There are 3 partners involved. Jolly Futures, who are the developers of the curriculum. Mount View Primary School, we are the implementing partner. And we have got 6 Malawi government schools or public schools involved. The idea of the project is that we start with 6 schools that are in our vicinity, and hopefully the long-term plan is to introduce another 6 and another 6 until we have trained all the local schools within our area on Jolly Phonics and how to deliver Jolly Phonics to ensure that all children benefit from Jolly. I said earlier, phonics are the fundamental basis of learning the English language, both written and spoken. So if your foundations are weak, obviously it will affect you down the line. Jolly Phonics ensures that the children are taught how to effectively read and write the English language.